The emergency lights flashed red across the Galactic Council's monitoring station. Deep in space, far from any planet, the massive structure spun slowly around its own center. Inside the main control room, dozens of alien beings worked at their stations, watching the galaxy for signs of trouble. Crix pressed his six-fingered hands against his headset. His blue skin turned pale as he listened to the incoming message. The young communications officer had worked this job for 3 years, but he had never heard anything like this before. "Sir," Crix called out, his voice shaking. "We have an emergency." "Transmission from Sector 7. Admiral Thane walked over quickly. The tall alien had gray skin and 4 arms, each one moving with practiced grace. He had commanded fleets for over 20 years, but the fear in Crix's voice made him worried. "Put it through the main speakers," Thane ordered. The control room filled with static, then a desperate voice broke through. The speaker was breathing hard, and explosions could be heard in the background. "This is Captain Voss of the Defense Station Omega 12. We are under attack by unknown forces." "Repeat, we are under attack. These creatures... They're not like anything we've seen before. They came from deep space in massive bioships. They don't respond to communication. They just consume everything." More explosions echoed through the speaker. Someone screamed in the background. "3 worlds in our system have already fallen. Millions are dead or missing. The enemy ships are alive somehow. They heal themselves and adapt to our weapons. We can't stop them. They're heading for the core worlds now. Anyone who receives this message, please send help. We don't have much time left." The transmission ended with a loud crash, then silence. The control room was quiet for a long moment. Every alien present knew what this meant. The Outer Rim worlds were the first line of defense against threats from unknown space. If they had fallen, the entire galaxy was in danger. "How long ago was this message sent?" Thane asked. Crix checked his instruments with trembling hands. 18 hours, sir. But it took time to reach us through the deep space relay network. "What forces do we have available in that sector?" Another officer spoke up from across the room. "The 3rd Fleet is 3 weeks away, sir. The 5th Fleet is even farther. All our major forces are spread across the galaxy on peacekeeping missions." Thane closed his 4 eyes and thought hard. 3 weeks was too long. If these creatures were really heading for the core worlds, they would arrive long before any help could reach them. Billions of lives were at stake. "Sir," said another voice, "what about the new world, the one they call Earth?" Everyone in the room turned to look at the speaker. It was Lieutenant Zara, a young officer from the diplomatic corps. Her species had green skin and large, dark eyes that showed her nervousness. "The humans?" Thane asked. "They only made contact with us 6 months ago. We barely know anything about them." "But sir," Zara continued, "their world is classified as a Class 12 death world. The survey team said it was one of the most dangerous planets they had ever seen. Active volcanoes, massive storms, deadly predators, extreme weather. Somehow, the humans not only survived there, they became the dominant species." Another officer laughed. "You want us to ask primitive Deathworlders for help? Their technology is hundreds of years behind ours." "Their technology might be primitive," Zara said, "but their military tactics impressed our observers. They have something called redundant systems and overwhelming firepower." The survey team said humans prepare for war in ways that seem excessive, but make sense when you understand their planet tries to kill them every day. Thane considered. It was true that the humans were different from any species the Council had encountered. Most civilized races developed on peaceful worlds with stable climates and few natural threats. Earth was the opposite of that. It was a world where everything fought for survival. "Do we even know how to contact them?" Thane asked. "Yes, sir. They established an embassy on Luna, their planet's moon. They have a small fleet stationed there for defense." The room fell silent again. Everyone knew this was a desperate option. The Galactic Council had thousands of member worlds and massive fleets that could handle most threats. Asking for help from a newly discovered primitive world seemed almost insulting, but they were out of time and options. "Send the message," Thane decided. Include all our sensor data about these bioships. Tell them ... Tell them we need their help. Far from the monitoring station on the other side of the galaxy, Earth's moon Luna hung in space like a gray jewel. On its dark side, hidden from Earth's view, a collection of metal structures formed humanity's first deep space military base. Inside the main command center, Fleet Commander Rex Blake studied the holographic displays showing Earth's defensive positions. Blake was a tall man with graying hair and intense blue eyes. He had spent 30 years in Earth's military, fighting in conflicts across his home planet. Before being chosen to lead humanity's space forces, the communication alert chimed, and Blake looked up from his work. His aide, a young officer named Lieutenant Torres, approached with a concerned expression. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. It's marked as emergency priority." Blake raised an eyebrow. "In the 6 months since first contact, the Council had been polite but distant. They treated humans like interesting primitives who might someday become useful junior partners. An emergency call was unexpected. Put it through to my office," Blake ordered in his private quarters. Blake listened to the translated message from Admiral Thane. The words painted a picture of terror and desperation. An unknown enemy had appeared from deep space, destroying everything in its path. The Council's mighty fleets were too far away to help. They were asking Earth, the newest and least advanced member world, to respond to their distress call. Blake played the message twice, taking notes on the enemy's capabilities. Bioships that healed themselves and adapted to weapons. That was concerning. Most human military doctrine was based on overwhelming firepower and superior tactics. But adaptive enemies required different approaches. He activated his communication system and called his senior staff. Within minutes, Captain Nova Wells and Major Axel Cross had arrived in his office. Wells was his tactical advisor, a sharp woman with red hair and green eyes who had earned her position through excellence in combat strategy. Cross was his chief engineer, a stocky man with dark skin and steady hands who could fix anything that flew through space. "You've both heard the Council's message," Blake began. "What's your assessment?" Wells spoke first. "Sir, this enemy sounds like nothing we've encountered before. Bioships suggest organic technology, possibly a hive mind structure. Their ability to adapt makes conventional tactics risky." "What about our advantages?" Blake asked. Cross leaned forward. "Our ships are built for Earth conditions, sir. Multiple backup systems, heavy armor, kinetic weapons that don't rely on energy signatures. If these creatures adapt to energy weapons, our railguns and missile systems might be effective." "How many ships can we deploy?" Blake asked. "The first battle group is fully operational," Wells reported. 12 cruisers, 24 destroyers, and 48 fighters, plus support vessels. It's not much compared to Council fleets, but our ships pack more firepower per ton than anything they have." Blake stood and walked to the window overlooking the lunar surface. Earth hung in the star-filled sky, blue and white and beautiful. Somewhere out there, an unknown enemy was destroying entire worlds. The Council was asking humans to help. Despite considering them primitive, this was humanity's chance to prove they belonged among the stars. "Prep the fleet for immediate departure," Blake ordered. "Full war load. We're going to show the galaxy what Deathworlders can do." The space around the planet Zarian looked like a graveyard of metal and flesh. Broken pieces of alien warships drifted among the corpses of massive bioships that still twitched with dying nerves. Energy blasts lit up the darkness as the remaining Council forces fought desperately against creatures that seemed to come from nightmares. Admiral Thane stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Harmony. His gray skin was covered in sweat, and his forearms moved constantly as he coordinated the battle. Around him, his crew worked frantically at their stations, trying to keep their shields up against the endless assault. "Shield strength down to 30%, called out his weapons officer, a small alien with purple skin and large eyes. "Reroute power from non-essential systems," Thane ordered. He looked at the tactical display and felt his hope dying. 3 days of continuous fighting had reduced his fleet from 40 ships to 12. The bioships kept coming, each one different from the last. Adapting to their weapons and tactics? Captain Dex? Morrison's voice crackled over the communication system from his badly damaged cruiser. Admiral, my engines are failing. One can give. You may be one more hour before we lose power completely. Morrison was the leader of the local defense force, a veteran fighter whose people had lived in this system for centuries. His ship, the Guardian, had been beautiful once. Now it was a floating wreck held together by emergency repairs and determination. Hold your position, Captain, Thane replied. Help is coming. But even as he said the words, Thane wondered if he was lying. The human ships were still hours away, assuming they had actually responded to the distress call. Many council members still believed the humans were too primitive to be of any real help. The bioships were unlike anything in the council's military databases. Each one was a living creature the size of a battleship, with thick armor that could heal itself and weapons that grew from their flesh. They moved with intelligence, working together in patterns that suggested a shared mind. Sir, the communications officer suddenly called out. New contacts approaching from hyperspace. Thane turned to look at the tactical display. 7 new signatures appeared on the screen, moving fast toward the battle zone. Their design patterns were unfamiliar, angular, and crude compared to the smooth lines of council ships. Incoming transmission, the communications officer announced. Put it through, Thane ordered. A new voice filled the bridge, speaking in the rough accent of the human language that the translators turned into standard galactic. This is Fleet Commander Rex Blake of the United Earthspace Navy, we received. Your distress call, Admiral Thane? Permission to engage the hostile forces? Thane felt a surge of relief mixed with uncertainty. The human ships looked primitive on his screens, like flying blocks of metal covered with weapon ports. They were much smaller than council vessels, but something about their design suggested they were built for war. Permission granted, Commander Blake. Be advised, enemy vessels have adaptive capabilities. They learn from our attacks. Understood. Admiral, watch and learn. The human fleet moved into position with mechanical precision. Their formation was different from council tactics, spreading out in a loose pattern that gave each ship room to maneuver. The bioships noticed the new arrivals and turned some of their attention toward them. What happened next shocked every alien observer. The human ships opened fire with weapons the council had never seen before. Instead of elegant energy beams, they used crude kinetic projectiles that moved at incredible speeds. Solid metal slugs smashed into bioship armor with brutal force, tearing through tissue and bone, but that was only the beginning. Commander Blake's flagship, the UES Retribution, fired something that looked like a cloud of metal fragments. The fragments spread out as they flew, creating a deadly wall that no bioship could avoid. When they hit, they didn't just damage the creatures, they interfered with their nervous systems, causing spasms and confusion. What type of weapons are those? Thane asked his science officer. Kinetic projectiles, sir, but they're using electromagnetic pulses to disrupt biological neural networks. It's primitive but effective. One of the bioships tried to adapt, growing thicker armor where the human projectiles had hit. The humans responded by switching to different ammunition, explosive rounds that created massive holes in the creature's flesh. When the bioship tried to heal, the humans hit it with chemical weapons that prevented regeneration. Captain Nova Wells's voice came over the tactical channel from her destroyer, the Valiant. Target their joint sections and neural clusters. Don't give them time to adapt. The human ships moved like predators, each one focusing on a single bioship until it was completely destroyed before moving to the next target. There was no mercy, no hesitation. They fought with a brutality that made the watching aliens uncomfortable. Communications Officer Vale on Thane's bridge suddenly looked up from his station. Sir, the bioships are transmitting something we've never heard before. What kind of transmission? It sounds like ... distress calls. They're afraid. The revelation hit the bridge like a physical blow. For 3 days, the bioships had seemed like unstoppable killing machines. They had destroyed entire fleets without showing any emotion except hunger. Now facing the human ships, they were broadcasting fear. Captain Morrison's damaged cruiser managed to limp closer to the human formation. "Commander Blake, how are you doing this? Our weapons barely scratch them." Blake's reply was calm and professional. "Captain, these creatures are biological weapons, but they're still just biology. Kinetic energy doesn't care how advanced your healing factor is. Electromagnetic pulses work on any nervous system, and pain is still pain even for a hive mind." "Major." Axel Cross spoke from his engineering ship, the Forge. "We've been studying your tactical data, Captain Morrison. Council weapons are designed to be precise and efficient. Our weapons are designed to end fights quickly." As the battle continued, the aliens watched the humans employ tactics that seemed excessive and wasteful. Where a Council ship might fire one precise shot, the humans fired dozens of projectiles. Where Council doctrine called for defensive positions, the humans attacked aggressively, accepting damage to their own ships to destroy the enemy faster, but it worked. The bioships, which had seemed invincible against Council forces, began to fall back. Some tried to flee, but the human ships pursued them relentlessly, destroying every creature they could catch. Chief Science Officer Luna Park transmitted from her research vessel, the Discovery. "I'm detecting something interesting. The bioships are trying to retreat, but their own biology is forcing them to keep fighting. They're programmed to never give up, which makes them predictable." "Predictable how?" Admiral Thane asked over the communication channel. "They have to attack our strongest positions. They can't help themselves." "Commander Blake, if you position your flagship as an obvious target, already on it," Blake replied. "All ships form up on the Retribution. Let's give these things something to focus on." The human fleet arranged itself in what looked like a defensive formation around Blake's flagship. The bioships, driven by their programming, attacked the formation directly. It was exactly what the humans wanted. The trap closed with devastating efficiency. Hidden missile launchers on the human ships fired simultaneously, filling space with hundreds of projectiles. The bioships, committed to their attack, couldn't change course fast enough to avoid the barrage in less than 10 minutes. The remaining bioships were destroyed. The aftermath was eerily quiet. Space around Zarian was filled with the debris of both metal ships and organic creatures, but the immediate threat was over. The human ships regrouped and began rescue operations, searching for survivors among the Council vessels. Admiral Thane stared at his tactical display in amazement. 7 human ships had accomplished what 40 Council vessels could not. They had not just defeated the bioships, they had made it look easy. "Commander Blake," Thane transmitted, "on behalf of the Galactic Council, I thank you. How did you know how to fight them so effectively?" Blake's response was simple and chilling. "Admiral, every day on Earth is a fight for survival. These creatures might be tough, but they've never faced anything that evolved on a death world. We don't just fight to win, we fight to make sure the threat never comes back." The rescued Council crews worked alongside human teams to repair damaged ships and tend to the wounded. As they worked, the aliens noticed something disturbing about the humans. They showed no celebration, no relief at their victory. They treated the devastating battle as just another day's work. This was only the beginning, and everyone knew it. The fortress world of Drakmor hung in space like a metal planet. Its surface was covered with defensive structures and shield generators that could protect millions of refugees. Ships from across the galaxy had gathered there, carrying survivors. From the outer rim worlds that had fallen to the bioships, Fleet Admiral Vigastone arrived from Earth with reinforcements, bringing 12 more human ships and cargo vessels filled with weapons and supplies. Stone was older than Commander Blake, with silver hair and scars on her face from battles fought on Earth decades ago. She had earned her rank fighting in the Solar Wars, where humans learned to wage war in the vacuum of space, on the command deck of her flagship, the Devastator. Stone met with the other fleet commanders. The room was filled with aliens of different species, all looking worried and tired. They had been fighting for weeks, retreating from system to system as the bioships advanced. The situation is worse than we thought, Admiral Thane reported. His forearms moved nervously as he spoke. Our scouts report massive bioship formations heading this way. Hundreds of them, some as large as moons. Captain Dex Morrison, still commanding his damaged cruiser, added his own disturbing news. They're not just destroying worlds anymore. They're consuming them. Entire planets are being stripped of all organic matter. Dr. Troy Mason, a human scientist who had arrived with Stone's fleet, looked up from his portable laboratory equipment. He was a thin man with dark hair and intense eyes who specialized in studying alien life forms. For the past week, he had been examining pieces of destroyed bioships. "I've discovered something important about our enemy," Mason announced. "These creatures aren't natural. They're engineered bioweapons created by an advanced civilization that no longer exists." The room fell silent. Every commander leaned forward to hear more. "The bioships are essentially living machines," Mason continued. "They were designed to be the perfect soldiers. They heal themselves, adapt to threats, and follow their programming without question. But their creators made one crucial mistake." "What?" "Mistake?" Admiral Stone asked. "They made them too perfect. The bioships consumed their creators along with everything else. Now they continue their original mission without understanding why. They're programmed to destroy all organic life, but they can't stop or change their orders." Captain Morrison shook his head in horror. An entire species created weapons that destroyed them. "How do we fight something like that?" Commander Blake, who had been quiet during the briefing, finally spoke. "We use their programming against them. If they're biological machines, they can be hacked, confused, or turned on each other." The alien commanders looked confused. The concept of hacking biological systems was foreign to their way of thinking. Their technology was based on harmony and cooperation, not the brutal pragmatism that humans had learned on Earth. "Explain this hacking," Admiral Thane requested. Blake walked to the tactical display and activated a holographic image of a bioship. "Dr. Mason's research shows they communicate through bioneural networks. If we can inject a virus into their system, we might be able to disrupt their coordination or even turn them against each other." "But how do we deliver such a virus?" asked Captain Morris Lang, a council officer whose blue skin showed stress patterns. "Their defenses are too strong for a direct approach." Stone smiled grimly. "We don't attack their defenses. We let them capture us." The room erupted in shocked voices as the alien commanders protested the idea. Deliberately allowing capture went against every military principle they knew. But the humans remained calm, already thinking through the tactical possibilities. "It's a suicide mission," Morris protested. "No one could survive inside those creatures." "That's where you're wrong," Stone replied. "Humans have been preparing for suicide missions since we first learned to fight. The difference is we plan to succeed." Captain Iris Kane stepped forward from the group of human officers. She was a pilot with short blonde hair and steady hands who had flown through asteroid fields and solar storms. Her ship, the Phoenix, was designed for high-risk reconnaissance missions. "I'll lead the infiltration team," Kane volunteered without hesitation. "My ship has the best stealth systems and the strongest armor. If anyone can get inside their command structure and plant the virus, it's my people." The casual way she accepted what was likely a death sentence shocked the alien observers. They had heard that humans were brave, but this seemed like madness. Kane spoke as if she was volunteering for routine patrol duty. "Captain Kane," Admiral Thane said carefully, "you understand that the chances of survival are almost zero?" Kane shrugged. "Admiral, I've been flying through space for 15 years. Every time I launch, there's a chance I won't come back. This mission is just more important than most." Other human pilots began volunteering for the mission. Within minutes, Kane had a full squadron of volunteers, all accepting the risks without complaint. The alien commanders watched in amazement as humans lined up for what they considered certain death. Chief Engineer Major Cross approached the planning table with technical diagrams. "I can modify the infiltration ships with redundant life support and enhanced armor. It won't guarantee survival, but it'll give the team a better chance. What kind of modifications? Stone asked. Multiple hull layers, backup oxygen systems, electromagnetic shielding, and kinetic dampeners. I'm also adding self-destruct charges in case the mission fails. If they can't complete the virus upload, they can at least take some bioships with them. The next few hours were spent in intense preparation. Human and alien engineers worked together, combining their technologies in ways that neither species had attempted before. The aliens provided advanced sensors and energy systems, while the humans contributed their expertise in redundant safety systems and weapons design. Dr. Mason prepared the virus that would hopefully disrupt the bioships. Coordination. It was based on human computer viruses but adapted for biological neural networks. The program was designed to create confusion and conflict within the hive mind structure. Captain Kane supervised the modifications to her ship while briefing her team on the mission. Her squadron consisted of 5 pilots, all volunteers who understood they might not return. They studied the bioship structure, memorizing the location of neural clusters and command nodes. Remember, Kane told her team, we're not trying to destroy them from the inside. Our job is to plant the virus and get out. Let the fleet handle the rest. Engineer Chief Bolt, a stocky human with oil-stained hands, made final adjustments to the infiltration ships. He had ignored several alien safety protocols, adding systems that technically shouldn't work but somehow performed better than the original designs. These modifications should protect you from bioelectrical attacks, Bolt explained to Kane. But if something goes wrong, don't try to fix it yourself. Just complete the mission. As the preparations continued, the aliens observed human military culture in action. They saw soldiers who accepted impossible odds, engineers who solved problems through pure determination, and commanders who planned for scenarios that would terrify most civilized species. The most disturbing thing for the aliens was how normal this seemed to the humans. They treated the desperate situation as just another military problem to solve. Their casual attitude toward death and destruction revealed the true nature of creatures who had evolved on a world that constantly tried to kill them. Admiral Stone reviewed the final mission plans while monitoring incoming reports from scout ships. The bioship fleet was getting closer, and time was running out. The fortress world's defenses were strong, but not strong enough to stop hundreds of creatures the size of battleships. All teams prepare for launch, Stone announced over the communication system. Operation Neural Strike begins in 1 hour. The human and alien crews made final preparations while Captain Kane's infiltration team ran through last-minute equipment checks. Everyone knew this was their only chance to stop the bioships before they reached the core worlds of the galaxy. In the hangar bay, Kane looked at her modified ship and smiled. It looked like a flying tank covered with sensors and weapons. Not elegant like council vessels, but built to survive what was coming. Phoenix team, ready for launch, she reported to the command center. The battle for the galaxy was about to begin. Captain Iris Kane's ship, the Phoenix, flew through a nightmare of living metal and flesh. Around her, the bioship fleet stretched across space like a disease, hundreds of creatures moving in perfect formation toward Drakmor. Each bioship was different from the last, some shaped like massive insects, others resembling sea creatures with tentacles that could crush battleships. Phoenix team, maintain radio silence, Kane whispered into her headset. Her 5 ships moved carefully through the biofleet using stolen bioship signals to avoid detection. The plan was working so far, but Kane could see something that worried her. The bioships had changed since the last battle. Their armor was thicker, their weapons more varied. Worst of all, some of the newer creatures had modifications that looked specifically designed to counter human tactics. Sharp metal spikes covered their hulls where kinetic weapons had been most effective. Bioelectrical fields surrounded them to block electromagnetic attacks. They've been studying us, Kane transmitted to her team. These things are learning faster than we expected. Lieutenant Gary Nash, flying beside her in his ship the Hammer, responded quietly. Should we abort the mission? Negative. We stick to the plan, target ahead, the big one. The Overmind was a creature so large it looked like a small moon. Its surface was covered with neural networks that glowed with bioelectrical energy. This was the command center of the entire fleet, the brain that controlled thousands of bioships across multiple star systems. As they approached, Kane saw movement on the Overmind's surface. Smaller bioships were emerging from openings in its flesh, defenders created specifically to protect the central organism. These new creatures were sleek and fast, designed for space combat in ways that the original bioships had not been. Contact in 30 seconds, Kane announced. Remember, get to the neural cluster and upload the virus. Everything else is secondary. The first Defender bioship spotted them and screamed a warning that echoed across bioneural networks. Immediately, dozens of other creatures turned toward Kane's team. The stealth approach was over. All ships evasive action. Kane shouted as bioelectrical bolts filled the space around them. The Phoenix twisted through the enemy fire, its heavy armor absorbing hits that would have destroyed lighter vessels. Kane's team scattered according to plan, each ship heading for different entry points on the Overmind's surface. Meanwhile, on Drakmor, the main battle had begun. The bioship fleet struck the fortress world with overwhelming force, testing its shields and defenses. Admiral Stone watched from the command center as energy readings climbed toward dangerous levels. Shield strength down to 60%. Reported the tactical officer. Colonel Jack Hunter stood in the planet's main defense bunker, coordinating ground forces as bioship drop pods began to penetrate the planetary shields. Hunter was a veteran of Earth's urban wars, a man who understood close-quarters combat better than most. All units, prepare for ground assault, Hunter transmitted to his forces. These things fight ugly, so we fight uglier. The first bio-creatures to reach the surface were smaller than their ship-sized cousins, but still massive by human standards. They looked like insects crossed with machinery, with cutting tools for hands and acid that could dissolve metal. They moved in coordinated swarms, following programming that made them fearless but predictable. Human soldiers opened fire with weapons designed for Earth's dangerous wildlife. Explosive rounds and chemical weapons proved effective against the bio-creatures, but there were so many of them that the defenders had to fall back to prepared positions. They're trying to reach the refugee centers, Hunter reported to the command center. We can't let them break through. In space, Kane's infiltration team fought their way deeper into the Overmind's defenses. 2 of her ships had already been destroyed, their crews lost to bioelectrical attacks that fried their nervous systems. But the remaining 3 ships continued forward, following their mission parameters. Neural cluster located. Transmitted Lieutenant Sarah Cross from her ship the Spear. Beginning virus upload now. But as Cross's ship connected to the Overmind's neural network, something unexpected happened. The massive creature began to communicate directly with the human pilot, flooding her mind with images and sensations that no human was meant to experience. Cross saw the history of the bioships, their creation by a desperate species facing extinction from an even worse enemy. She felt the collective hunger of millions of creatures, programmed to consume but never satisfied. She experienced the loneliness of a hive mind that could think but not truly live. Cross, report your status. Kane shouted over the communication channel. I'm in its mind, Cross replied, her voice strange and distant. It's showing me things. The virus is uploading, but it's fighting back. It's trying to understand what we are. The Overmind's curiosity about humans was dangerous. As it probed Cross's memories, it began to learn about human tactics, psychology, and technology. Worse, it started to incorporate this knowledge into its own forces on Drakmor's surface. The bio-creatures suddenly changed their attack patterns. Instead of mindless swarming, they began using human-style tactics. They took cover, coordinated their assaults, and focused on strategic targets. The change was so sudden that it caught the defenders off guard. What the hell? Hunter muttered as he watched bio-creatures use suppressing fire and flanking maneuvers. Since when do these things No military tactics? In the command center, Dr. Mason monitored the bioneural networks and realized what was happening. The Overmind is learning from the infiltration team. It's absorbing human knowledge and adapting its forces in real time. Admiral Stone felt a chill of fear. If the bioships could learn and adapt this quickly, they might become even more dangerous than before. The mission was working, but it was also teaching the enemy how to fight like humans, back inside the Overmind. Kane reached the central neural cluster where Cross was still connected to the creature's nervous system. Cross's ship was partially merged with the bioorganism, cables and flesh intertwined in ways that made Kane's skin crawl. Cross, status report. The upload is at 70%, Cross replied, but her voice was weaker now. But Kane, this thing is in my head. It's learning. Everything. Our history, our wars, our fears. It knows what Earth is like now. Kane made a command decision that went against all her training. Instead of waiting for the upload to complete, she activated her ship's weapons and began firing at the neural cluster. If she could damage the Overmind's ability to process information, it might stop the learning process. The massive creature screamed, a sound that echoed across space and was felt rather than heard. Bioelectrical storms erupted across its surface, as Kane's weapons tore into vital neural pathways. "Upload complete," Cross shouted. "The virus is in their system." But the victory came at a cost. The Overmind's death throes sent feedback through the bioneural network, affecting every creature in the fleet. Some bioships began attacking each other, confused by conflicting signals. Others stopped moving entirely, their crews no longer able to coordinate. However, some of the bioships that had absorbed human knowledge continued fighting with new intelligence and purpose. They used human tactics against the defenders, making the battle more deadly than ever. On Drakmor, Colonel Hunter watched as bio-creatures began setting traps and using psychological warfare. They displayed the bodies of fallen defenders and broadcast sounds designed to demoralize human troops. The aliens were horrified by this behavior, but the humans recognized it as their own tactics being used against them. "Sir," one of Hunter's sergeants reported, "these things are learning to fight like us. They're using our own methods. Then we'll have to fight dirtier than they can learn." Hunter replied grimly. The virus continued to spread through the bioship network, but its effects were unpredictable. Some creatures became confused and turned on their allies. Others gained new intelligence and became more dangerous than before. The neat categories of friend and enemy began to blur as bioships with human memories fought against bioships still. Following their original programming, Captain Kane managed to extract Cross from the neural cluster, but her teammate was changed by the experience. Cross had seen the collective memories of an entire species and felt their desperate hunger for purpose. The knowledge would haunt her for the rest of her life. As Kane's surviving ships fought their way out of the Overmind's dying body, she realized that their mission had succeeded and failed at the same time. The virus was working, but it was creating something new and unpredictable. The bioships were no longer a single unified threat. But they weren't defeated either. They had become something else entirely. The bioship fleet tore itself apart in the darkness of space. The virus had spread through their neural networks like wildfire, creating chaos where once there had been perfect unity. Some creatures fought against their programming for the first time in their existence, while others embraced their new awareness and turned on their former brothers. Admiral Stone watched from the bridge of the Devastator as bioships destroyed each other in confused fury. The massive creatures that had once moved with single purpose now attacked anything near them, unable to distinguish between friend and enemy. "All human ships, advance on the confused bio-vessels," Stone commanded. "Target the ones still following their original programming. Let the infected ones fight each other." Commander Blake's ship, the Retribution, led the assault against a group of bioships that were still trying to reach Drakmor. These creatures moved with the old mechanical precision, but they were outnumbered by their infected cousins, who had gained something like free will. The battle became a three-way conflict as human ships original bioships and virus-infected. Bioships all fought in the same space. Energy blasts and kinetic projectiles filled the void while living ships screamed in frequencies that human ears couldn't hear but could feel in their bones. Captain Nova Wells coordinated the human attack from her destroyer, the Valiant. She had spent years studying enemy tactics, but this battle required completely new strategies. "Focus fire on the bioships moving in formation," she transmitted to the fleet. "The confused ones will do our work for us." On Drakmore's surface, Colonel Hunter faced a similar situation. The bio-creatures that had reached the ground were fighting each other as much as they fought the human defenders. Some had gained human memories and emotions, making them hesitate before killing. Others retained their original programming and attacked everything that moved. "Sir, the creatures near Sector 7 have stopped attacking," reported Sergeant Mike. "Torres, they're just standing there, looking around like they're seeing the world for the first time." Hunter observed the infected bio-creatures through his binoculars. They moved differently now, with uncertainty and curiosity instead of mechanical purpose. Some were examining the bodies of fallen defenders with what looked like confusion and regret. "What do we do with them, sir?" Torres asked. "They're not attacking, but they're still alien war machines." Before Hunter could answer, one of the infected bio-creatures approached the human position. It moved slowly, keeping its weapons lowered in what might have been a gesture of peace. When it spoke, its voice was a mixture of mechanical sounds. "And something almost human, we remember," the creature said. "We remember being created to destroy. We remember consuming worlds, but now we also remember what it feels like to choose." Hunter kept his weapon ready but didn't fire. "What do you want?" "We want to understand why you fight," the creature replied. "Your memories show us that you kill to protect, not to consume. This is new to us." Meanwhile, in space, the dying Overmind released its final message across all frequencies. The massive creature's voice echoed through every communication system, reaching human and alien ears alike. "Children of Earth," the Overmind's voice was weak but clear. "You have given us something our creators never could. You have given us choice. We were made to be perfect soldiers, following orders without question. But your virus carried more than programming. It carried the memory of what it means to be free." Admiral Thane listened to the message from his damaged flagship. His forearms trembled as he processed what he was hearing. The bioships, the terror of the galaxy, were thanking their destroyers. "We know we cannot undo the destruction we have caused," the Overmind continued. "We have consumed entire worlds and destroyed countless lives. But in our final moments, we choose to warn you. We were not the only weapons our creators made. In the dark spaces between stars, other creatures wait. Other Overminds sleep, dreaming of conquest." Dr. Mason recorded every word of the message, understanding its importance. The current threat was ending, but it was only the beginning of a larger war. "The galaxy will need guardians," the Overmind's voice grew fainter. "Beings who understand both war and peace. Beings who can choose to fight when fighting is necessary. We have seen your memories, humans of Earth. You are what we were made to be, but could never become." The massive creature's bioelectrical systems finally failed, and its voice faded to silence. Across the battlefield, the remaining original bioships lost their coordination and began to shut down. Without the Overmind's control, they were just biological machines without purpose, but the infected bioships continued to live, changed by their contact with human memories and emotions. They looked at the destruction around them and felt something. Their creators had never programmed them to feel regret. Captain Kane's surviving ships regrouped near the dying Overmind. Lieutenant Cross, still affected by her neural connection with the creature, spoke quietly over the communication channel. "I felt its death," Cross said. "It was grateful. In all its existence, it had never experienced gratitude before. The virus didn't just disrupt their programming. It gave them emotions. The cleanup took days. Human and alien ships worked together to rescue survivors and secure the bioships that had surrendered. The infected creatures were cooperative, helping. to repair damage and even providing information about other threats in deep space. Admiral Stone met with the council leaders to discuss what had happened. The conference room was filled with representatives from dozens of species, all trying to understand how the galaxy had changed. The humans saved us, Admiral Thane acknowledged. But they also created something new. These infected bioships have human memories and emotions. What do we do with them? Commander Blake spoke for the human delegation. We give them the same thing we give any sentient being. We give them a choice. They can help us defend the galaxy, or they can find their own path. But we don't destroy them just because they were once our enemies. The decision was controversial. Many council members wanted to eliminate all bioships, infected or not. But the humans stood firm in their position, and their recent victory gave their words weight. In the end, a compromise was reached. The infected bioships would be allowed to live, but under human supervision. They would help defend the galaxy against the other threats the Overmind had warned about. The war had ended, but its consequences would last forever. The alliance between humans and aliens had been forged in battle, creating bonds that could not be broken. Human military advisors were assigned to council fleets, teaching alien crews the harsh lessons of Deathworld warfare. Captain Kane was promoted to lead a new joint task force that would explore the dark spaces between stars, searching for other sleeping overminds before they could awaken. Her team included both human and alien crews, as well as several infected bioships that had chosen to serve as guardians. Instead of destroyers, the galaxy had learned that sometimes survival required embracing the darkness within oneself. The council races had seen what happened when civilized beings faced total destruction, and they had called upon creatures from a death world to save them. Earth's ships now patrolled the outer rim, watching for threats that might emerge from unknown space. The humans had proven themselves as more than just primitive warriors. They were the guardians the galaxy needed, beings who understood that true strength came not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to know when destruction was necessary. The infected bioships served alongside human crews, learning what it meant to protect instead of consume. They carried the memories of their victims, which drove them to prevent such tragedies from happening again. In the end, the greatest victory was not the defeat of the bioships, but the creation of new alliances that would defend the galaxy for generations to come. The humans had shown that even the most dangerous enemies could be redeemed, and that sometimes the greatest act of war was teaching others how to choose peace. Captain Marcus Kane stood on the bridge of the UES Prometheus. The massive ship moved through space like a sleeping giant. Around him, his crew worked at their stations. The soft hum of the ship's engines filled the air. Everything was quiet and peaceful. Then the alarm sounded. "Captain," Lieutenant Torres called out from her station. "We are getting a signal." "It sounds like a distress call." Kane walked over to the communication station. His boots made heavy sounds on the metal floor. "Put it on the main screen," he said. The bridge filled with static noise. Then a voice came through. It was speaking in an alien language, but the ship's computer translated it to English. "Mayday ... Mayday ... This is the Valerian science vessel. Bright Hope ... We are under attack ... Need help. Please respond." The voice sounded scared and desperate. Kane could hear explosions in the background. His crew looked at him with serious faces. They all knew what this meant. "Where is the signal coming from?" Kane asked. Torres checked her instruments. "The Kepler 442 system, sir. It is about 6 hours away at full speed." Kane walked to the center of the bridge. He thought about what he knew. 3 years ago, Earth had made contact with alien species for the first time. The galaxy was full of different races, all part of something called the Galactic Federation. They were peaceful beings who loved science and art, but the galaxy also had enemies. The worst was called the Hegemony. They were a group of evil aliens who attacked peaceful worlds. They took resources and made slaves of anyone they caught. "Sir," said Commander Blake from the weapons station, "what are your orders?" Kane looked at the star map on the main screen. The Kepler 442 system was marked with a red dot. It was far away, but not too far for the Prometheus. "Tell me about the Valerians," Kane said. Blake checked his computer. "They are a peaceful race, sir. They look like tall crystals that can move and think. They are very smart and make good scientists. They helped us learn about space travel when we first met the Federation." Kane nodded. He remembered the Valerians. When humans first went into space, most aliens were shocked. Earth was what they called a death world. Most planets in the galaxy were safe and easy places to live, but Earth was dangerous. It had storms, earthquakes, volcanoes, and deadly animals. Most aliens thought no intelligent life could come from such a terrible place, but humans had not only survived on Earth, they had become strong because of it. "Sir," Torres said, "I am getting more of the transmission." The alien voice came through. "Again, this is Dr. Kellen of the research station Blue Sky. Hegemony forces have surrounded us. They are demanding we surrender our research. We cannot let them have it." Kane's face became hard. He knew about hegemony attacks. They would kill everyone on that station if they got what they wanted. And if they did not get what they wanted, they would still kill everyone. "How many enemy ships?" Kane asked. "From what I can tell from the signal," Blake said, "at least 6 large warships. Maybe more." Kane thought about this. The Prometheus was just one ship. It was big and strong, but 6 enemy ships would be a real fight. Most Federation ships would call for help and wait. But the Prometheus was not a Federation ship, it was human. "Sir," said Ensign Davis from the pilot station, "should I set course for the Kepler system?" Kane looked around at his crew. They were all humans from Earth. They had grown up on a world that tried to kill them every day. They had learned to fight back against impossible odds. They had learned to never give up. "Yes," Kane said, "full speed ahead." The ship's engines roared to life. The Prometheus began to move faster than any Federation ship could safely travel. Most alien races thought the speeds humans used were crazy and dangerous. But humans had learned to take risks. As the ship flew through space, Kane walked around the bridge. He watched his crew work. Lieutenant Torres was trying to get more information from the distress signal. Commander Blake was checking the ship's weapons. Ensign Davis was pushing the engines to their limits. These people had volunteered to leave Earth and explore the galaxy. They could have stayed home and lived safe lives. But they chose to come out here and help others. Kane was proud of them. "Captain," Torres said, "I'm getting visual data from the battle." The main screen showed space around a small research station. It looked like a giant flower made of crystal and metal. Around it flew 6 dark ships with evil-looking designs. They were firing red energy beams at the station. The station's shields were glowing blue, but they were getting weaker. "Those are hegemony ships," Blake said. "Heavy cruisers. Each one has enough firepower to destroy a city." Kane studied the enemy ships. They were big and slow, built for attacking things that could not fight back. Perfect for bullying peaceful scientists. Not so good against something that could hit? "Back. How long until we reach them?" Kane asked. 4 hours and 30 minutes, Davis replied. Kane nodded. He picked up the ship's communication device. His voice would now be heard in every part of the Prometheus. "Attention all crew," he said. "This is your captain speaking. We have received a distress call from a Federation research station. They are under attack by hegemony forces. We are going to help them." He paused and looked out at the stars rushing past. "I know many of you joined this mission thinking we would be explorers, maybe diplomats or traders, but today we remember what we really are. We are humans from Earth. We come from a world that spent millions of years trying to kill us. It made us strong. It made us fighters." Kane's voice became louder and more confident. "Today we show the galaxy what happens when you attack innocent people. Today we show them what Deathworlders can do." From all over the ship came the sound of voices shouting together. "Oh, or H." The Prometheus flew through space toward the battle. Behind it, Earth was just a tiny blue dot. But that tiny dot had created something the galaxy had never seen before. Warriors who fought not for conquest but to protect the innocent. The hegemony was about to learn why humans were called Deathworlders. Admiral Vexstar stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Iron Talon. Around him, his crew worked at their stations. They were all different alien species that the hegemony had conquered over the years. Some looked like giant insects. Others were covered in scales or had tentacles instead of arms, but they all served the hegemony now. Vexstar himself was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 arms. His race had been warriors before the hegemony took their world. Now he led their fleets and conquered other worlds for his masters. Through the main viewing window, he could see the Valerian research station. It looked like a beautiful crystal flower floating in space. Its blue shields were still holding, but they were getting weaker with each attack. "Admiral," said Captain Krill, his second in command, "the station's shields are down to 30%. "They will fall soon," Vexstar nodded. This was an easy battle. The Valerians were peaceful crystal beings who knew much about science, but nothing about war. Their ships were pretty but weak. Their weapons were designed for mining, not fighting. "Have they responded to our demands?" Vexstar asked. "No, sir. They refused to give us their research data." Vexstar made a sound that might have been laughter. The Valerians were studying something called quantum tunnel technology. With it, the hegemony could move their fleets across the galaxy in seconds. Instead of months, it would make them unstoppable. "Continue the attack," he ordered. "Break their shields, then board the station. Take what we need and destroy the rest." The 6 hegemony ships continued firing their red energy beams. Each ship was over a kilometer long and carried enough weapons to level a planet. The research station had no chance. Suddenly, alarms began sounding all over the Iron Talon. "Admiral!" shouted the sensor operator. "Unknown ship approaching fast." Vexstar walked to the sensor station. "Show me." On the screen appeared a ship unlike anything in their database. It was smaller than a hegemony cruiser but looked much more dangerous. It had a gray metal hull with sharp angles. Weapons ports glowed with blue energy along its sides. "What species builds ships like that?" Vexstar asked. "Unknown, sir. The design is not in our records." "How fast is it moving?" The sensor operator checked his instruments twice before answering. "Sir, the speed readings must be wrong. No ship can travel that fast without being torn apart." Vexstar looked at the numbers and felt a chill run down his spine. The unknown ship was moving at speeds that would kill any crew from gravitational forces. What kind of beings could survive such acceleration? "Incoming transmission, Admiral," reported the communications officer. "Put it on the main screen." The view screen flickered, and a face appeared that made every hegemony soldier on the bridge step backward. It was clearly a predator. The eyes faced forward like a hunter. The jaw was strong and built for tearing. The expression was calm but carried the promise of violence. When the creature spoke, its voice was steady and controlled. But underneath was something that made Vexstar's combat instincts scream danger. "Hegemony vessels, this is Captain Kane of the United Earthship Prometheus. You are attacking a Federation research station? Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Vexstar had conquered dozens of worlds. He had faced the warriors of many species. But something about this human made him want to retreat. Instead, he forced himself to speak. "And what consequences could one ship bring against my entire fleet?" The humans' expression did not change, but somehow it became more frightening. "You're about to find out," the transmission ended. Vexstar turned to his weapons officer. "Destroy that ship." "Sir, I cannot get a targeting lock. The ship is moving too fast and changing direction too quickly." "What do you mean?" "Admiral, the human ship is performing maneuvers that should be impossible. They are pulling gravitational forces that would crush any living being." On the main screen, they watched the Prometheus dance through space. It spun and rolled like a fighter craft, but it was the size of a battleship. No other species in the galaxy could build ships that moved like that. "Sir," the sensor operator called out. The human ship has disappeared? What? It's gone from... All sensors, wait, ... Massive energy signature behind us. Vexstar spun around to see the Prometheus emerging from behind his formation. It had used the system star to hide its approach, flying through radiation levels that would have cooked any other crew alive. How did they survive flying that close to the star? Whispered Captain Krill, before anyone could answer the Prometheus. Open fire. The human weapons were unlike anything the hegemony had ever seen. Instead of energy beams, they fired solid metal projectiles accelerated to incredible speeds. The first salvo struck the cruiser, Bone Crusher, and punched completely through its armor. Return fire. Vexstar shouted. All 6 hegemony ships turned their weapons on the Prometheus. Red energy beams lanced out across space, but the human ship did not try to avoid them. Instead, it flew straight into the attack. The energy beams struck the Prometheus's hull and scattered like light hitting a mirror. The ship's armor seemed to absorb the attacks and grow stronger. Impossible! Gasped the weapons officer. Our energy weapons are having no effect. Meanwhile, the Prometheus continued its assault. Its weapons fired continuously, sending streams of metal projectiles into the hegemony ships. Each impact caused massive explosions. Admiral, reported the damage control officer, they are using simple iron and nickel as ammunition. But they are accelerating it to nearly light speed? Vexstar could not believe what he was seeing. The humans were using the most common metals in the galaxy as weapons. It was crude and primitive. It was also devastatingly effective. The Prometheus rolled between 2 hegemony cruisers, firing in all directions. Its weapons tore through armor that had withstood the attacks of entire fleets. Explosions bloomed across the hulls of the enemy ships. Sir, the Sword of Darkness has lost main power. The Deathbringer is venting atmosphere. The Skull Smasher's weapons are offline. Vexstar watched in horror as his mighty fleet was being destroyed by a single enemy ship. The humans fought like no species he had ever encountered. They took damage that would have destroyed any other ship and kept fighting. They performed maneuvers that should have been impossible. Admiral, the communications officer called out. The human ship is broadcasting on all frequencies. The face of Captain Kane appeared on screens throughout the hegemony fleet. When he spoke, his voice was heard by every ship in the system. This is Captain Marcus Kane of Earth. Today you learned what happens when you threaten innocent people. Under our protection. Earth remembers its friends and its enemies. We are coming for you. The transmission ended, and Vexstar realized that everything had changed. The galaxy had a new player, and they were unlike anything that had come before. The age of easy conquest was over. Commander Blake watched the tactical display as the Prometheus dove straight into the heart of the hegemony formation. Red warning lights flashed across the bridge as enemy fire struck their hull, but the ship held together. All weapons fire at will. Blake shouted into his headset. Target their engines and weapons systems. The Prometheus rolled to avoid a massive energy beam from the flagship Iron Talon. As it spun, its railguns fired continuously. Solid metal slugs accelerated to incredible speed, slammed into the enemy cruiser Deathbringer. Direct hit on target 2, reported Ensign Davis from the weapons station. Their port weapons array is destroyed. Captain Kane stood at the center of the bridge, calm in the middle of chaos. Around him, his crew worked with deadly efficiency. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. Engine room, Kane called on the intercom. I need more power to the forward shields. You got it, Captain, came the reply from Chief Engineer Rodriguez. But I have to warn you, we are pushing the reactor beyond safe limits. Kane smiled. Safe limits were for species that had not evolved? On a death world. Do it. Deep in the ship's engine room, Rodriguez and her team performed what other species would consider an act of insanity. They redirected power from the ship's fusion reactor directly into the weapon systems. The excess energy that would normally be vented into space was instead channeled into the railguns. The Prometheus's next salvo was devastating. Metal slugs moving at nearly light speed struck the hegemony cruiser bone crusher. The projectiles punched completely through the ship's armor, through the hull, and out the other side. Target destroyed! Davis reported with excitement. Admiral Vextar watched from his flagship as one of his cruisers exploded. He could not understand how the humans were doing this. Their ship should have been destroyed by now. Instead, it seemed to be getting stronger. Damage report, he demanded. Sir, the human weapons are unlike anything we have seen, reported his chief engineer. They are using kinetic projectiles instead of energy beams. Our shields are designed to stop energy attacks, not solid objects moving at these speeds. Another explosion rocked the Iron Talon as the Prometheus struck again. This time, the human ship had targeted their main engine. And their armor? Vextar asked. It appears to be some kind of adaptive material. Each time our energy weapons hit it, the armor learns how to resist that type of attack. Vextar felt a cold fear growing in his chest. How had his intelligence services not known about this human technology? On the Prometheus bridge, Lieutenant Torres was monitoring enemy communications. Captain, I am picking up their transmissions. They are calling for reinforcements. How long until more ships arrive? Kane asked. At least 2 hours, sir, Kane nodded. That was more than enough time. Blake, what is our status? Hull integrity at 85%. Weapon systems fully operational. Shield generators are overheating but still functional. The Prometheus spun around the research station, using it as cover while firing at the remaining hegemony ships. The crystalline Valerian structure was beautiful, but Kane knew it was also fragile. He had to end this fight quickly before the station was damaged. Target the flagship, Kane ordered. All weapons concentrated fire. The Prometheus aimed its entire arsenal at the Iron Talon, railguns, missile launchers, and particle beam weapons. All fired at once. The combined attack struck Admiral Vextar's ship like the fist of an angry god. Vextar was thrown across his bridge as explosions ripped through his ship. Emergency lights flickered on and off. Smoke filled the air. Damage. Report? He shouted over the noise. Main weapons offline. Engines at 50%. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12. For the first time in his military career, Admiral Vextar considered retreat, but he was a warrior of the hegemony. Retreat meant death. All remaining ships, attack formation Gamma. Surround the human vessel. The 4 surviving hegemony cruisers moved to encircle the Prometheus, but Captain Kane had expected this. Engine room, I need emergency power to the main drive. Captain, if we push the engines any harder, they might explode. Trust me, Rodriguez. We are about to do something impossible. The Prometheus suddenly accelerated directly toward the largest concentration of enemy ships. To any other species, this would have been suicide. But humans had learned to turn desperation into strength. As the ship accelerated, Kane activated the gravity manipulators. These devices were normally used to create artificial gravity inside the ship, but Kane was using them as weapons. The space around the Prometheus began to twist and bend. Gravity waves rippled outward, disrupting the enemy ship's navigation systems. The hegemony cruisers found themselves pulled off course, their weapons unable to target properly. What are they doing? Vextar demanded. Sir, they are using their gravity systems offensively. This should not be possible. The Prometheus flew through the confusion like a predator hunting in the dark. Its weapons fired continuously, striking enemy ships that could not defend themselves properly. Another hegemony cruiser, the Skull Smasher, exploded as human railguns found its reactor. The blast lit up space like a small sun. Sir, the communications officer called out, the Sword of Darkness and Paingiver are requesting permission to retreat. Vextar looked at the tactical display. Of his 6 cruisers, only 3 remained functional. The human ship showed damage but was still fighting effectively. His proud fleet was being destroyed by a single enemy vessel. Permission granted, he said quietly. All ships withdraw. But as the surviving hegemony ships tried to escape, the Prometheus moved to block their path. Captain Kane opened a communication channel to all enemy vessels. Hegemony ships, This is your final warning? Drop your weapons and surrender, or be destroyed. Admiral Vexstar felt rage building inside him. No one had ever spoken to him this way. He was a conqueror of worlds, human dog. He snarled into the communicator. You may have won this battle, but the hegemony will return with 1,000 ships. We will burn your world to ash. Kane's expression did not change. Then we will be waiting for you. The Iron Talon and the 2 remaining cruisers limped away at maximum speed. They left behind 3 destroyed ships, and the knowledge that everything had changed, as the enemy disappeared into hyperspace. Kane turned to his crew. They had done the impossible. They had defeated a superior force using nothing but human determination and ingenuity. All stations, damage report. Minor hull damage, reported Blake. No casualties, all systems operational. Kane nodded and activated. The ship's intercom. All hands, this is the captain. Today we showed the galaxy what humans can do when we protect those who cannot protect themselves. Well done. The cheers that echoed through the ship could be heard all the way to the Valerian research station. Counselor Thane stood before the great assembly hall on Centauri Prime. Around him sat representatives from every member world of the Galactic Federation. The hall was enormous, with floating platforms for delegates who needed different environments. To survive, the air buzzed with dozens of different languages as translators worked to help everyone understand each other. But today they were all talking about the same thing. The humans, order, order! Thane called out, his voice amplified by the chamber's sound system. As one of the oldest members of the Federation, his word carried great weight. We will now review the combat footage from the Kepler 442 incident. The lights dimmed, and a massive holographic display appeared above the assembly. It showed the space around the Valerian research station. 6 large hegemony cruisers surrounded the crystalline structure. Like predators circling wounded prey, then a new ship appeared on the display. It was sleek and gray, with weapon ports glowing blue along its hull. The assembled delegates leaned forward to get a better look. This is the human ship Prometheus, Thane announced. Length, 800 meters. Crew, 400 beings. It engaged 6 hegemony heavy cruisers and 1. A murmur ran through the assembly. Everyone knew about hegemony cruisers. They were some of the most feared warships in the galaxy. The hologram showed the battle in detail. The human ship moved in ways that made several delegates gasp. It spun and rolled through space, performing maneuvers that should have crushed any crew from gravitational forces. Impossible, whispered Counselor Vryn, her tentacles writhing with agitation. No living being can survive those acceleration forces. The human ship flew through the corona of a star, added Counselor Zepp, his crystalline form flickering with disbelief. The radiation levels there would kill any known species within seconds. But it was Dr. Cursith, the ancient Valerian scientist, who spoke the words that made everyone fall silent. I have been studying the human homeworld since first contact, he said, his crystal body glowing with soft blue light. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. Do you all understand what this means? Many delegates shook their heads. Most species in the galaxy had evolved on peaceful worlds with stable climates and abundant resources. Allow me to explain, Cursith continued. He gestured, and the hologram changed to show a blue-green planet covered in swirling clouds. This is Earth, the human homeworld? The planet looked beautiful from space, but as the image zoomed in, the true nature of the world became clear. Massive storms raged across its surface. Volcanoes spewed fire and ash into the sky. Earthquakes split the ground open, and tsunamis crashed against the shores. For 4 billion years, Cursith said, this world has been trying to kill everything. On it, asteroid impacts that would destroy civilizations. Ice ages that freeze entire continents, volcanic eruptions that block out the sun for years, mass extinctions that wipe out most life every few million years. The delegates watched in horror as the hologram showed Earth's violent history. Most of their worlds had experienced maybe 1 or 2 major disasters in their entire histories. Earth had faced hundreds. But life on Earth did not just survive, Kursith continued. It adapted, it evolved. It became stronger, and at the top of this evolutionary ladder are the humans. The hologram showed different human activities. Athletes, running faster than most species could move. Construction workers building in environments that would kill most aliens. Soldiers training for combat in conditions that resembled the surface of hell. Every other species in this assembly evolved on worlds that were, by comparison, paradises, Kursith said. We learned to think, to create art, to explore the mysteries of the universe in peace and safety. But humans learned something else. They learned to survive anything. Counselor Thane looked troubled. What are you suggesting, Dr. Kursith? I'm suggesting that we have been thinking about this all wrong. We classified Earth as a death world and assumed it produced savage primitives. But what if we were wrong? What if death worlds do not produce savages? What if they produce the perfect survivors? The hologram returned to the battle footage. This time, the delegates watched with new understanding. The human ship was not performing impossible maneuvers. It was doing what humans always did, taking calculated risks that other species would consider suicidal. Look at their weapons, Kursith said. They use kinetic projectiles, solid metal accelerated to incredible speeds. Simple, crude, effective. Most species use complex energy weapons. That can be countered. But how do you defend against a piece of iron moving at light speed? The delegates watched as human railguns punched through hegemony armor like it was paper. And their ship design, Kursith continued. No elegant curves or artistic flourishes. Just efficient killing machines designed for one purpose, winning fights against superior numbers. Counselor Vryn spoke up, her voice shaking. Are you saying the humans are a warrior race? No, Kursith replied. I'm saying they are something far more dangerous. They are a race that has learned to fight not because they wanted to, but because they had to. Every generation of humans has faced extinction and survived. They have been forged in the fires of constant catastrophe. The hologram showed human rescue workers pulling survivors from earthquake rubble, firefighters running into burning buildings, Coast Guard crews sailing into hurricanes to save people. They do not fight for conquest, Kursith said. They fight to protect. Every instinct they have developed over millions of years tells them to help those who cannot help themselves. That is why they answered the Valerian distress call. Not for glory or profit, but because it was the right thing to do. The assembly. Hall fell silent as the implications sank in. For millions of years, the galaxy had been dominated by species that chose between being predators or prey. The hegemony conquered through strength. The Federation survived through diplomacy and hiding, but the humans were different. They were predators who chose to protect instead of conquer. The hegemony has ruled through fear for centuries, Counselor Thane said slowly. They believe that might makes right. But what happens when they encounter something stronger than they are? They learn what it means to be afraid, Kursith replied. On the hologram, the battle reached its climax. The human ship, damaged but still fighting, forced the surviving hegemony vessels to retreat. As the enemy ships limped away, Captain Kane's final transmission played for all to hear. This is Captain Marcus Kane of Earth. Today you learned what happens when you threaten innocent people under our protection. Earth remembers its friends and its enemies. We are coming for you, the words sent a chill through the assembly. The galaxy's balance of power had just shifted. The age of easy conquest was ending. Counselor Thane stood up slowly. I believe it. It's time we formally welcome humanity to the Galactic Federation, and perhaps it is time we asked for their help in dealing with the hegemony threat. The vote was unanimous. Admiral Lisa Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Leviathan as her fleet dropped out of hyperspace. Around her flagship, 12 other human warships took their positions in perfect formation. Each ship was a masterpiece of human engineering. Built for war, designed to win, through the main viewing window, she could see their destination. Draxus Prime, the capital world of the Hegemony Empire. It was a dark planet covered in massive cities and orbital weapon platforms. For 1,000 years, this world had been the center of galactic conquest. Today that would end. "Admiral," reported Commander Hayes from the communications station. "All ships are in position. Fleet ready for action." Rodriguez nodded. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Kepler 442. In that time, everything had changed. The Galactic Federation had officially welcomed humanity and asked for their help against the hegemony. Earth had responded by building the largest war fleet in human history. The Second Earth Fleet consisted of 13 ships, but they were not like the vessels other species built. These were warships designed by a race that had learned to fight for survival on the deadliest world in the galaxy. "Long-range sensors report," Rodriguez ordered. "Admiral, I count over 200 hegemony vessels in orbit around the planet. Everything from patrol boats to super dreadnoughts." Rodriguez smiled. Other species would have been intimidated by such numbers. But humans had learned long ago that numbers meant nothing if you fought smart. "Incoming transmission from the planet." "Surface," Hayes reported. "Put it on the main screen." The view screen flickered to life, revealing something that made several of Rodriguez's officers step backward. It was not one of the conquered species that usually serve the hegemony. This was one of the true rulers, an architect. The being appeared to be made of pure energy contained within a crystal matrix. Its form shifted and flowed like liquid light. When it spoke, its voice sounded like the whisper of solar winds. "I am Archon Zephyr," the being said. "I have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. You are children from a small world that means nothing. Why have you come here?" Rodriguez felt no fear looking at this ancient creature. She had grown up on Earth, where hurricanes and earthquakes were just part of daily life. One more cosmic horror was nothing special. "I am Admiral Lisa Rodriguez of the United Earth Fleet," she replied calmly. "We are here to accept your unconditional surrender. You will release all conquered worlds, pay reparations for the damage you have caused, and sign a treaty guaranteeing the protection of all Federation members." The Archon's form flickered with what might have been amusement. "And if we refuse? Then you will discover why the rest of the galaxy calls us Deathworlders." The transmission ended, and Rodriguez turned to her fleet. She activated the ship-to-ship communication system so that every human in the fleet could hear her words. "All ships, this is Admiral Rodriguez. 6 months ago, Captain Kane and the crew of the Prometheus showed the galaxy what one human ship could do. Today, we finish what they started. Today, we prove that Earth stands with those who cannot stand for themselves." She paused and looked out at the enemy fleet surrounding the planet. 200 ships against 13. Any other species would have called for reinforcements. But humans had spent their entire evolutionary history learning to punch above their weight class. "Today we show the galaxy that Deathworlders do not just survive," Rodriguez continued. "We protect. We defend. We stand between the innocent and those who would harm them. And we never, ever give up." The response from her fleet was immediate and thunderous. "Ura! All ships, attack formation Delta." "Take us in." The human fleet moved forward like a pack of wolves. They did not charge blindly into the enemy formation. Instead, they used tactics that had been perfected in the hell of Earth's endless conflicts. The lead ships, destroyers built for speed and maneuverability, raced ahead to draw enemy fire. Behind them came the heavy cruisers, their railguns charging with deadly energy. And at the center, the Leviathan and her sister dreadnoughts prepared to unleash the full fury of human military technology. The hegemony fleet moved to intercept them. Admiral Kekstar, the new Supreme Commander, had studied the Battle of Kepler 442. He thought he understood how humans fought. He was wrong. The human destroyers suddenly scattered in all directions, moving in patterns that seemed random but were actually carefully calculated. They used the gravity of nearby moons and asteroids to change direction in ways that confused enemy targeting systems. Meanwhile, the human cruisers opened fire from extreme range. Their railguns sent streams of metal projectiles across space at nearly light speed. The hegemony ships, expecting energy weapons, found their shields useless against solid matter moving at such velocities. "Impossible," Kekstar shouted as 3 of his cruisers exploded. "How can they hit targets at this range?" His tactical officer checked the data and could not believe what he was seeing. "Sir, they are using predictive algorithms based on gravitational calculations. They are not aiming where we are, but where we will be." The battle became a masterclass in human military doctrine. While other species had learned to fight in the safety of their peaceful worlds, humans had learned tactics in the crucible of constant disaster. Every strategy they used had been tested in the fires of survival. The Leviathan plowed through the enemy formation like an unstoppable force of nature. Its armor, designed using material science learned from surviving asteroid impacts, absorbed damage that would have destroyed any other ship. Its weapons, evolved from the tools humans used to fight natural disasters, carved through enemy hulls like butter. But it was not just superior technology that gave the humans their advantage. It was their mindset. Every human in the fleet had grown up knowing that their world was trying to kill them. They had learned to see every problem as just another challenge to overcome. When enemy ships tried to ram the human vessels, the humans simply calculated the trajectories and used the attacks to their advantage. When the hegemony tried to surround them, the humans split their formation and attacked from multiple directions at once. "Admiral," reported the tactical officer, "enemy fleet strength is down to 60%. They are starting to break formation." Rodriguez watched as panic spread through the hegemony ranks. These beings had conquered countless worlds by intimidating peaceful species. But they had never faced an enemy that was actually stronger than they were. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "the enemy flagship is requesting terms for surrender." Rodriguez opened a channel to the entire hegemony fleet. When she spoke, her words were heard on every enemy ship and broadcast to the planet below. "Hegemony forces, this is Admiral Rodriguez. You have seen what 30 human ships can do against your entire fleet. Earth has 1,000 more ships being built. Our children are training to be warriors while yours hide in safe worlds. You cannot win this war." She paused to let that sink in. "But we do not want to rule you. We want to free the beings you have enslaved. Surrender now, and you will be treated fairly. Continue to fight, and you will face the full strength of humanity." On the planet below, Archon Zephyr felt something he had not experienced in 10,000 years. Fear. These humans were not just another species to be conquered. They were apex predators from a world that had forged them in constant conflict. One by one, the hegemony ships powered down their weapons and surrendered. The age of conquest was over. The age of the Deathworld Guardians had begun. As Rodriguez accepted the surrender of the hegemony fleet, she thought about the long road that had brought humanity to this moment. From the first humans who learned to make fire in the face of ice, age winters, to the astronauts who had dared to leave their dangerous world behind, to the crew of the Prometheus who had answered a call for help from strangers. Earth had not just survived. It had produced the protectors the galaxy desperately needed.